The story begins when our main protagonist, called Reiji, buys a copy of Infinite Dendrogram, the world's first full virtual reality MMORPG. Upon entering the game, he is greeted by a cat called Cheshire, who is one of the AI in charge of overseeing the game, and tells Ray he must choose an online alias. Reiji chooses the name Ray Starling. As he arrives at the Kingdom of Alter, Ray meets a woman called Liliana, an NPC who asks for his help in looking for her sister, called Million. Ray's brother, called Shu, offers to help in the quest, but after finding Million in an abandoned orchard, they are attacked by demi-drag worms, with Shu dragged underground and Liliana fighting elsewhere. Only Ray is left to bring Million to safety. Fortunately, Ray awakens his embryo called Nemesis, who manifests as a sword and destroys the last demi-drag worm, finishing the quest. As Ray, Nemesis, and Shu celebrate the completion of Ray's first quest, Shu explains some of Alter's history to Ray and helps him to become a paladin. Later, Ray and Nemesis attempt to level up, but they are ambushed by a player killer. Despite his efforts to escape, Ray is killed and has to wait 24 hours before logging back into Infinite Dendrogram again. To become stronger, Ray and Nemesis go to the Tomb Labyrinth in the Royal Cemetery, where they fight zombies and meet another player, called Figaro, one of the top-ranking players in Alter, who recommends Ray to visit Gideon, a city where players can have duels and suffer no penalty for dying. As Figaro takes his leave, Ray and Nemesis continue their fight throughout the labyrinth, but Nemesis is left terrified by the zombies and Ray consoles her by polishing her blade. Ray, Nemesis, and two others, called Rook and Babylon, discover that the player killers stalking the four corners of Alter have been eliminated. Another player, called Marie Adler, who is a journalist working for the Dendrogram Information Network, confirms the story and shows the group a video depicting 3 of the top players in Alter, Figaro included, defeating the player killers. Marie also confirms that the player killer stalking the North, who is responsible for killing Ray, escaped and is still at large, giving Ray and Nemesis the opportunity to get even. Later, as Ray and Nemesis survey a destroyed forest, they come across Cheshire, who was running maintenance in the area, and informs Ray that maiden-type embryos like Nemesis share the same functionality as administration eyes. With the player killers defeated, the roads across Alter are now open. Ray and his allies accept a quest to transport goods to Gideon, with Marie offering to come along. Unbeknownst to Ray and his allies, a giant ogre, called Gardrandha, stalks the road to Gideon. As Ray's group sets out on their journey to Gideon, they encounter a group of goblins attacking a caravan of travelers. Ray and his allies defeat the goblins until they are ambushed by Gardrandha, who spreads out poisonous gas to weaken Ray. Marie gives Ray an elixir to temporarily protect him from the poison's effects, while Rook and Babylon keep Gardrandha distracted. As the battle progresses, Nemesis evolves into her second form and gains an ability called, like a flag flying the reversal, which allows her to reverse any spells affecting Ray. Despite this, Nemesis's offensive abilities are severely reduced and Ray kills Gardrandha when a bullet fired by the unidentified player weakens it at the last possible second. With the boss defeated and the group arriving at Gideon, the quest ends and Ray is selected as MVP. Ray also obtains 2 magical bracers as new weapons, but gets himself injured while testing them out until a stranger in a penguin suit, who calls himself Dr. Flamingo, gives Ray a potion that heals him but also gives him animal ears. Flamingo runs away, but not before telling Ray that he should return to normal in 10 hours. Ray and Nemesis are confused as to how Flamingo knows Ray, even though Ray never gave him his name. In the end, we see what looks like a player sitting in a dark room glaring at monitor screens watching several players and commenting about Ray. Ray and Nemesis visit an item shop in Gideon, where Ray earns a special stallion from a game machine. Unfortunately, Ray cannot ride it without earning a special amulet first. Ray attempts to earn money in order to buy the amulet, until he comes across a fellow master called Hugo and his friend Psycho. They all get a quest from a woman, who asks them to save her brother from a child kidnapping gang. Upon accepting the quest, Hugo reveals his weapon, a giant robot called Magingier, which he uses to take Ray to the gang's fortress, but not before telling Ray that masters of maiden-type embryos, like Ray, do not consider Infinite Dendrogram to be a game, but as genuine as real life itself. While Hugo and Psycho attack the fortress's defenders head-on, Ray and Nemesis infiltrate the fortress and discover that several of the kidnapped children have been murdered and turned into undead monsters, forcing Ray to kill them in an act of mercy. Hugo is attacked by a giant boss guarding the fortress, forcing him to reveal Psycho as his embryo and merge her with his Magingier. Hugo destroys the boss while Ray reaches the fortress's lowest dungeon and finds a child as the sole survivor, but as he tries to save him, the child awakens and attacks Ray. Ray survives the surprise attack thanks to Nemesis's halberd form and confronts the mastermind behind the kidnappings, a Lick who was trying to create a powerful magical relic called the Crystal of Resentment. The Lick attempts to flee but is stopped by Hugo and Ray kills him. While Ray and his allies venture deep into the castle to rescue the remaining children, the bandits had worked for the Lick attempt to steal his possessions, including the crystal. Unfortunately, the crystal reacts to the Lick's death, kills the bandits, and merges with their corpses, creating a new boss. Hugo takes the children to safety while Ray confronts the boss alone. Nemesis discovers that the boss is controlled by the lingering grudges of the people that compose it, and she gains extra attack power whenever the Lick's grudge controls it. Unfortunately, Ray is injured in battle and Nemesis takes him to safety while going to confront the boss on her own. Ray has a dream about a mysterious girl who observes the time Shu saved him and a little girl from getting hit by a truck, but got his foot injured in the process. Ray blamed himself for his injury, but Shu told him to believe in himself and to never lose faith in whatever choice he makes. This motivates Ray to return to the fight, but not before the girl reveals herself to be the last remnant of Gardranda's mind, having acquired sentience after Ray killed her original form. Ray and Nemesis destroy the boss and acquire a pair of greaves as a reward. Later that night, Hugo and Cocytus meet up with Flamingo, who takes off his penguin suit and discusses his plan to end the war between Alter and Drife. With all their major quests finished, Ray and Nemesis meet up with Marie, Rook, and Babylon to have breakfast together. Marie gives them an invitation to a fighting tournament that will be held in Gideon. Later, Shu tells Ray and Nemesis that he is friends with Figaro, who will compete in the tournament. Ray goes to see Hugo in order to split up the reward for the previous quest, and Hugo advises Ray to go west. As the tournament begins, Franklin calls the general of Drife's military and tells him of his plan to use the tournament to Drife's advantage. Shu gives Ray a telepathy cuff, which can be used to communicate with two people across long distances. Shu also warns Figaro that he will face tough opponents in the tournament, but Figaro still intends to win. Ray is about to bet on Figaro for the tournament's next match, but Nemesis stops him, thinking he will waste their money again. They stumble upon a player called Zunyu, who is carrying an unconscious girl. Ray thinks Zunyu is about to harm the girl and attempts to fight her, but proves to be too fast for him. Fortunately, Shu steps in and diffuses the situation, and the unconscious girl is actually an ambassador from the Huanghe Empire with Zunyu as her bodyguard. Ray and Shu reunite with the rest of the party as the match begins, with Figaro and Zunyu set to fight each other. Zunyu is able to land several hits on Figaro, even cutting out one of his lungs. However, Figaro possesses a special embryo that makes him more powerful the longer he remains in a fight. Just when it looks like Zunyu has directed a killing blow toward Figaro's heart, Shu reveals that Figaro's embryo is inside his body and is shaped like a heart, protecting him from the attack. Figaro ends up winning the match, but Flamingo interrupts and reveals himself to be Franklin, a scientist working for the Drife Imperium. He also reveals he kidnapped an NPC called Elizabeth, Alter's second princess, and is keeping her hostage. Marie, having known Elizabeth right before the tournament at Gideon started, becomes determined to save her from Franklin, who reveals that he surrounded the arena with a barrier, and if players attempt to break through, the monsters under Franklin's control will destroy Gideon. While Marie goes on to save Elizabeth on her own, Ray discovers that underleveled players like himself can walk through the barrier safely, as the barrier was only meant to hold high-ranking players that could partake in the tournament's matches. Ray, Rook, and other underleveled players fight players affiliated with Drife. Franklin tells Elizabeth that his plan is to eliminate any players affiliated with Alter, an action that will leave Alter vulnerable in an upcoming war against Drife. Marie briefly saves Elizabeth and inflicts lethal damage on Franklin, but Franklin transfers all the damage he sustained to his monsters and survives. As he recaptures Elizabeth, he deduces Marie managed to kill a high-ranking player using only an underleveled embryo and orders his henchman, called Veldorbel, to eliminate Marie. Meanwhile, a group of low-ranking players attempts to liberate Gideon's West Gate, but Hugo kills them. Marie, Hugo, and Veldorbel remember the experiences that led them to play Infinite Dendrogram in the first place. Veldorbel uses his ability to manipulate sound in an attempt to kill Marie, but she kills him by her revealing her embryo, called Arc and Seal. Meanwhile, Franklin takes the unconscious Elizabeth outside Gideon and instructs Hugo to keep everyone, except Ray, from leaving the city. As Franklin steps outside the city, he is attacked by the Royal Guard, commanded by Liliana, but he summons a monster to decimate them. Ray and Rook reach Hugo, who agrees to let Ray confront Franklin, but not before Ray and Hugo attack each other only once. As Rook remains behind and fights Hugo, Ray reaches the city's outskirts and prepares to fight Franklin. As the fight between Rook and Hugo continues, Hugo uses a skill that freezes parts of Rook's body over time. Thanks to his deduction skills, Rook is able to understand how Hugo's skill works and merges with Babylon to fight with Hugo's Magingear. The power boost allows Rook to pierce through Hugo's cockpit and incapacitate him with his charm magic. Meanwhile, Franklin tells Ray that the potion he gave him earlier actually feeds Franklin information about his status, level, and weapons, and he used that information to create a monster with the express purpose of killing Ray. He also reveals that he is the one who sent Liliana's sister, Milliane, to the monster-infested orchard, which was yet another attempt to weaken Alter. Ray tells Liliana and Sir Lindos of the Royal Guard to save their injured companions, while he attacks the monster directly. Using his newest weapons, Ray is able to expose the monster's entrails and unleashes a magical attack that completely disintegrates it. Although Ray is successful in destroying Franklin's monster, he sustains severe injuries and falls unconscious. Liliana casts a healing spell that keeps Ray from dying, but she is unable to heal his left arm. Franklin reveals the monster Ray destroyed was actually the weakest monster he created for the invasion, and he uses a detonator to activate a series of bombs he planted all over Alter. But the bombs fail to activate, and Franklin realizes Marie has disarmed them. Rook captures Hugo and makes him realize that Franklin never intended to end the Alter-Drive war with minimal casualties. Franklin summons his embryo, called Pandemonium, and sends an army of suicidal monsters to attack Gideon. But Ray awakens and takes on Franklin's monster in order to buy enough time for his allies to prepare a counterattack. With the help of Rook, Marie, and a group of players, Ray is able to hold the line. Franklin realizes that with so many players assisting Ray, Hugo must have betrayed him. Shu enters the battlefield and reveals himself to be the King of Destruction, the player with the highest kill count in all of Alter. He summons his embryo, a battleship that decimates a significant portion of Franklin's army. Franklin realizes he has lost the battle, so he goes on to activate his final weapon. Franklin activates his final weapon, a large subterranean creature that will destroy Gideon's Colosseum. But Fatum, a foreign player who had infiltrated the Colosseum, uses magic to move the tectonic plates around the creature, crushing it to death. Ray manages to reach Pandemonium and attempts to confront Franklin, but Hugo steps in to protect him, revealing that Franklin is Hugo's elder sister. Ray sacrifices both arms to defeat both Hugo and Franklin, while Shu destroys Pandemonium, and Marie rescues Elizabeth. With the battle over, Liliana heals Ray but is unable to save his left arm, leaving Ray with his right arm to continue playing the game. In the aftermath, Franklin removes Hugo from the Triangle of Wisdom, both in an attempt to protect him and to undo any moral restraints he may have in his goal of beating Ray. Ray also has a rematch with Marie, having already discovered she was the one who killed him earlier. Later, Ray disconnects himself from the game and decides to continue his college studies in the real world, and this brings the anime to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.